Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Take 5. And today my topic is on the issue of investigating the high performer or the leader, the critical person within an organization. A lot of times when we get investigations, one of the issues that we're faced with is the organization that is thinking, well, we have to do an investigation, but this person is so important to us, so important to our operation. And when we're dealing with that kind of situation, especially as an external investigator, a lot of people can maybe want to get their spoon into the soup pot, right? They want to start controlling and and manipulating what might be happening. Imagine an organization whose top salesperson is responsible for 40% of the sales that they make, and that person is accused of sexual harassment. The organization is obviously trying to do the right thing, but they're thinking to themselves, wow, like if this is true, and a lot of times they know that it may very well be true because people who are high performers are often given that free pass. People look the other way. People tolerate those behaviors because of what they bring to the table. And that's not a good thing right from the start. That's a major problem. But organizations, especially ones that 40% of your sales, maybe this is the lead person in a manufacturing plant, and if they get pulled out, things fall apart. And organizations are terrified to have to experience those kinds of issues, and so they are reluctant to see an investigation lead to a person's termination or lead to a person being disciplined in some way that they might leave the organization. Or investigations can sometimes damage relationships because people get involved and start learning about some of the things someone might be accused of because of the process of investigation. It's very, very daunting for an organization. It can also be a major problem when it's a leader in the organization. Might not be somebody who is necessarily the rainmaker, but they're the leader. They're the CEO or a high-ranking official within the organization, and this can become problematic when some poor individual working in the HR department is asked to conduct this investigation internally. Organizations have to decide: are we operating with integrity? Are we operating, where the rules apply equally to everyone? And we hear this all the time in the media, right? We hear all kinds of talk about how, well, the rules have to apply to everyone equally. And we look at politicians and we look at, high-ranking officials in other settings where it seems maybe sometimes the rules don't apply equally. These high performers get that free pass. And I understand why it happens, but I'm really highly opposed to it happening. We really have to develop processes that can carve through that. So I only have the control over the part that I'm involved in. So as the investigator, my job is to make sure that, every investigation is fair. Every investigation turns over the stones it needs to. And just because the person that's being investigated is somebody of a higher authority or somebody who's a particularly important person to the operation doesn't mean that that investigation should be conducted differently than an investigation into other individuals who might not have the same level of impact in the organization. So I present this really more as a cautionary tale that when you're conducting investigations and you're dealing with somebody who is falls into this category, you can't allow the process to be altered or micromanaged by others. There has to be the when you think about investigations processes, one of the most important pieces of the credibility of the investigation process is consistency. Consistency. The rules apply consistently. The process is applied consistently. This is really critical to making sure that people can have faith in the outcomes of these things. Imagine, in an organization, particularly a larger organization, where again, the rainmaker, as I call them, is somehow given a free pass, or it's somehow perceived that they are not treated in the same way as others would be. Well, that undermines the entire confidence that the entire organization will have in that process. And so future processes are going to be affected by that memory, that legacy that's left. So again, a cautionary tale. Just because somebody is important to the organization doesn't mean they shouldn't be held to the highest standards like everybody else. In fact, I would argue that people that are particularly leaders in an organization, they should be held to an even higher standard because they're the ones that have to set the tone. They're the ones that are the role models for everybody else. I had an investigation that was happening in our organization one time. The organization went as far as to lie to the complainant and advise the complainant that our investigator wasn't able to complete the investigation, and so they were fired, and they brought in another investigator. Meanwhile, the investigation was completed, the report submitted, and the report found that this individual had in fact engaged. All of the allegations were substantiated, but the organization absolutely did not want to lose that person. And so they went shopping for an investigator that would give them the answers that they're looking for, give them the outcome that they wanted. And as soon as a client tells us, well, this is what we're looking for, this is where we think this should land, we run the other way because our job is to be neutral, fair investigators who gather information and get to the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. And there's not much we can do about that. Anyway, I hope you find this little bit of information helpful. Please subscribe to the Take 5, to our YouTube channel and our Take 5 videos. And thank you so much again for listening. Take care. See you next time.